All right, everybody, welcome to Football Talks. And we have here with us today two incredible women. We have Cheyna Matthews, who is from Jamaica, or she plays for Jamaica. Right now with NWSL racing Louisville FC. A mother to her son, Josiah, played in the 29 Women's World Cup in France, is currently pregnant, and we are very excited to have her here today. And we have Ana Cate, Nicaraguan, American-born, member of the Nicaraguan women's national team. I believe is the first Nicaraguan woman to play professionally in Europe. Woo! And in 2019, she gave birth to her son, Alexander, and is made the comeback in the season. So we have amazing guests today, and we wanted to just start off the conversation because we all know the power of the game as females. We know what the game has brought to our lives. We know that our vision at Concacaf is to improve lives through football. But I'm going to start with you, Cheyna. How has the game of football or soccer, as some may call it, impacted your life?
Yeah, I mean, the impact, I've played since I was 3 or 4. I think once you start running, that's when my parents started us off. I'm 4 or 5, so all my siblings started in soccer. I'm just the only one that kind of really latched onto it and saw it through. Now 27 and still kicking the ball around. So I'd say all around the board, just positive impact on my life, whether it's learning from different players. I've had an opportunity to play, obviously, now on the international stage, and even in college, I was playing with players from all over the world. So I think the exposure has been good. I think teammates is obviously like the most exciting part. And then, being a forward and scoring is not too bad either.
Well, as a goalkeeper, I wish I could say that I was proud of you for that. But you scored some big goals for Jamaica. Ana, how about you? How has the game impacted and changed your life for the better?
Yeah, similar to what Cheyna said. I can't remember not playing soccer. I think I started when I was also 4 or 5. And for me, we moved around a lot when I was a kid. I was born in Kansas City, and then we moved, 4 times before I was 12. So soccer was really always my, safe place. It was always, okay, we moved somewhere and we would find a team. It was, okay, those were my, I had friends kind of right away, and I had somewhere that I didn't have to worry about always being the new kid. And so I think that's really helped me as I've grown up, just to be able to adapt to new situations and, be able to find something that, if I felt good, then everything else just kind of fell into place. So.
You talk about adapting. You both have been aware of the highs and lows of women's football. Can you say one of the greatest lessons I've learned in this game is, and fill that in? And I think the reason why I asked that question is we have 41 different members associations with 41 different realities. The reality in Nicaragua and Jamaica, there are similarities, but there are changes. What is one of the greatest lessons you've learned through the sport that has made you, again, a better version of yourself?
I can start. I think I would say the ability to have a goal and to do whatever it takes to reach that goal. Whether it's in soccer, of course, you're fighting to win a championship every season, or you're fighting to, get promoted up to the next league or whatever. But it's, even if it doesn't happen, even if you don't reach that goal, there's always, you say, okay, next season. There's always something to strive for and always something to really push for. And I don't think that is just only in soccer. It's in everything in life. It's getting a promotion, it's finishing your degree, it's always having something to strive for and to reach for.
I actually was going to piggyback off that. Mine is pretty similar. I feel like soccer has taught me that you put in a lot of work, and sometimes things do not go the way that you expect. They may be better than you expect, and sometimes they may be even worse. There are things that we can't control, like injuries and different things, results of games sometimes. But to keep putting into something that you really enjoy and that you're passionate about, that's the part that's most important. And like you said, it doesn't just have to be soccer. I apply it to motherhood, I apply it to my marriage, and there's just all these different things that make it applicable. So I would definitely say that's the biggest lesson, and not to get too high and not to get too low.
So talking about highs and lows, Cheyna, Women's World Cup in France last year. I mean, as a little girl, I'm sure that wasn't like your number one dream, but it happened. And the impact that your team had in young Jamaican girls, you need to see it to believe it. Can you talk about what the meaning of going to the World Cup was for you, but then also the next generation, and why that was important?
There's always something to be said about being the first. I remember even back in college, at Florida State, we won the first championship in school history. And that was even a moment where it's like, wow, we got to be the first to do something like that. And so I kind of had that itch to have an experience like that again now. In my wildest dreams, did I think it would be the World Cup at that time? Probably not. But it did turn out to be such. And I remember kind of the feedback that we got for winning the first national championship, and to have that on an international stage, it was more than I could have dreamed. And I remember when we were going to have all these different, I think it was I think they call it like a going away, or like a farewell, and meeting like the tournaments leading into the big matches and stuff like that. I remember seeing all these kids and them wanting autographs and being so happy to see us off. It's just something I won't forget, and it's hopefully something that is inspiring, but also, I hope to see the next country, qualify for the World Cup and have that same moment, so huge, really huge.
Beautiful. Speaking of first, Ana, you are the first Nicaraguan woman to play professionally in Europe. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So, same question to you. What does that mean for you? Again, this is probably a bigger dream than a dream you had yourself, but then also the impact that has in a country like Nicaragua to see a girl like you do such big things.
Yeah. I really don't think the impact of it hit me until just a few years ago. I mean, I came to Iceland in 2014, and I feel like I was still pretty young and just excited to be here and not really thinking about, the impact that I was possibly having. And just in the past few years, I'm proud, of course, I'm proud of what I've accomplished, but I'm also, I hope that it inspired somebody else to see, that somebody from a teeny tiny country in Central America can also, make it to the big stages. I mean, we played in the Champions League, made it to the round of 16, and I think one of my, I don't want to say my biggest regrets, but I wish that I wish that I would have been able to help somebody else, open the door for somebody else to take kind of the steps that I've taken. It's just, I hope that also by seeing me, maybe, coach of another team or something, saw where I was from and thought, hey, okay, maybe there's somebody else we can find from down there.
I'm sure you've impacted. Trust me.
No.
Sometimes we don't see the impact we're having, but I'm almost positive that you have. So recently, there's been two big announcements in the women's game. One being the FIFA reform and protection of female players. Why this call is important, because we have two mothers on the call, three, I got it, I have to include myself, right now who are mothers. And the reform protects the players with maternity leave. The great thing for us as Concacaf is the FIFA Stakeholders Committee, which is chaired by Victor Montagliani, our president, definitely pushed the importance of protecting mothers and players. How important, and I'll start with you, Cheyna, how important is this to the women's game?
It has been such a long time coming. And like we talked a little bit before, just about how it's so hard to even think about becoming pregnant during your career. It's always been something you kind of seen after, typically, but it's like we've always had reproductive organs. So how have these things not really been in place? So for me, it's kind of like, I remember when I became pregnant, and I'm looking through my contract, trying to figure out, okay, like how's this going to be handled? And then I realized that it was literally all held up to the standards of my club, which was the Spirit at the time, and how they decided to handle it from their standpoint. And I'm thankful that, they did right by me. I was still considered a rostered player. I had all my benefits and things like that, but there was nothing really set in stone to protect me at all. I mean, I'm even contractually under, obviously, like sponsorships, and they're like performance-based. And it's like, okay, well, if I can't perform because of pregnancy, is that really a punishment? Like, how do we handle these things? And so I just feel like it's been a long time coming. I'm glad that these conversations are happening and these, clauses are being put into place, because they're just long overdue.
Anna?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I think it's also just to kind of take the stigma away from pregnancy as being this terrible thing that happens to women. I think that, as a player, as we're growing up, we kind of always, don't get pregnant, it'll end your career, it'll end your season, it'll end your high school life, it's, as you're growing up. And so I feel like we kind of have this ingrained in us that it's a bad thing, that we don't want to get pregnant, that it's going to end everything that we want to be doing. And so I think it's huge. I think it's amazing for, women that are at this stage in their career, playing at the highest level, professionally, internationally, that they know that, it's going to be okay, and that their teams are going to stand by them, and their federations will stand by them. And I think it's awesome. It's awesome to be a mom, and it's awesome to be a mom who plays soccer. So I think it's, just to normalize that conversation, I think is fantastic.
I think when you say normalizing, that's so important, because I know when I was playing, it really wasn't an option for me. I was a goalkeeper, so that factored into things, but it really wasn't an option for me. And to your point, it was like I had to choose. I would either be a mother or I would be a player. And I think what's amazing and what you women have done is your teammates are watching you. They're watching you handle both being a mother and being a player. And it makes them now, with this new reform, know that they too can have that choice to be a player and a mother. How hard is it though to do both?
Takes a village. I say that all the time. I don't think, even now with the new reforms, I think it still wouldn't have been possible without my family, without the support of my husband, without that kind of just village around me, because there's so many things that go into play, whether it's travel, games postponed, you just all these different things, finding someone for childcare, then you're traveling most weekends. There are just so many things. I remember being at my first camp with Jamaica and still breastfeeding, and literally getting off the bus from practice, going straight to the room where my moms were, my mother-in-law and my mom, where they were pumping, breastfeeding, going back to meetings, and just being so tired, but remembering like, okay, I want to play soccer. I have the support. I'm encouraged by the people around me. My teammates are even like, what, how's this possible? So it was really cool to have that experience, but man, it's not for the weak.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think saying it takes a village is the perfect way to kind of sum it up. I mean, I don't think you really know what goes into it until you have your baby and you're like, okay, I have to get to practice. Who's going to take care of the baby? Who's, okay, I need to make sure that's a new diaper. He needs to drink or eat or whatever. It's like, before, I remember just how simple it was. Okay, I'm going to practice, see you later. And I would walk out the door. And, I remember when I was coming back on Fridays, our practices were a little bit earlier than usual. So my wife wasn't home from work. And so I just had to bring him with me. So I had him, packed up his bag, had my stroller there on the sidelines, and we were running sprints. And, I had a coach or an assistant coach just pushing the stroller, baby hanging out. And it's like, wow. I mean, it's at the end of the day that, the days would end and it was like, whew.
And then you do it again tomorrow.
Exactly.
Incredible. I mean, you women are a testament to, the 0.00% that do both. And I think for us at Concacaf, we just released our women's senior ecosystem, our competition, and which will double the amount of games played in the cycle. We have our Women's Nations League, meaningful games within our members association. And I think that's one of the things that the highlights that I want to ask each of you about. How important is it to host meaningful games in your members association or countries, as you guys know? So how important is it for Nicaragua to have a home game, for a meaningful game, to not only the next generation, but for the players?
It's huge. I mean, I get goosebumps thinking about the crowds that we would have, and unfortunately, I think I can think back and we've only had maybe 5 or 6 in my career that were actually, big, meaningful games that, we were playing for something. And for every single one, the stands were packed. I mean, they were loud. The fans were just, amazing. And I remember for us as players, it was really, it's hard enough playing a game, but it's to feel the support and the passion from the people that you're playing for. It really, gives it a whole nother meaning and takes it to another level. And for the girls that, if you do have kids, it's so much easier to say, I'm playing at home. I don't have to go travel. I don't have to go anywhere, to play in front of your kids and your family and your friends is, that's what it's all about. So it's amazing.
I agree. I think even in Jamaica, to have a lot of my teammates' parents and aunts and little cousins that can't travel, literally a lot of times can't leave the country because of just different things like passports and just different circumstances. It means a lot every time we get to play at home. I remember we just had Olympic qualifiers, the Caribbean qualifiers, and we got to have all those games at home, and it meant a lot for the players. I think we kind of rallied behind each other, and there's just something about having a home field advantage, and having your family in the crowds, and to guarantee that to federations, I think that's huge.
I think you guys have hit.
Sorry, if I can jump in and say one more thing about what you said about the kids. I think it's so important for little girls to, be able to see their role models playing representing their countries, wearing the national team jersey. It's such an amazing moment that I remember having as a kid watching the US national team. It felt like they had games all the time, all over the place, and to go and watch them was just something that I still remember. So I think it's great for the next generation too, to be able to see, us as role models.
Yeah, you literally, exactly what I was going to say. I remember our coach had said to me, there's 2 types of people who get to wear that flag in their heart for their job. Those that protect the country, the military, and then those that inspire the country, which is what we as players do. So to see it means that they can believe it's possible. And to your point of that next generation watching a game, watching a meaningful game played in their country, what is that going to mean for that young girl now from your countries or your members association to see that live?
I think it's a priceless experience to be able to witness a game that could lead to a World Cup qualification or Olympic qualification or Euro qualification. Just all these different events. It makes it more attainable. I think seeing is definitely believing. And to make that a reality for some of these countries that literally maybe even don't have cable to watch the games. Because say you're not home and you want to watch the women play. What if you don't have the the cable or the internet or the, you know, the service to be able to do that. So I think it helps to be able to see, but I think it also helps us too. It helps grow the game. It helps grow the exposure. I remember our first game was against Brazil in the World Cup, and there were so many people there talking about how this was the first year that they had the games aired on public television in Brazil for the Women's World Cup. And it's like, what? Like, how is that even a thing? But that's a reality for a lot of these countries. I even know, I mean, in Jamaica, getting the games on TV is sometimes hard to come by. So it's huge. It's huge to have that outlet. It's huge. I mean, sports. I mean, you put us in a place where we could be seen and people are going to watch.
I love it. So I know it's the end of the year here. 2020 has been quite an interesting year. You guys have any plans or traditions for the holidays that you want to share with us before we sign off?
So we're here in Iceland right now, and we're actually going to be, my family and my sister all live in Florida. So we're going to be making the trip with the kid to Florida to see my parents. It's been a whole year since they've seen him. So, you know, in terms of tradition, just trying to be as close to family as possible, whether it's here in Iceland or, you know, we're lucky enough to be able to go back to Florida. But, you know, finding some family to hang out with, that's our biggest tradition.
And for me, I'm just hoping that I'm not in the hospital on Christmas Eve or Christmas. But I'm due right around then. So I really don't know. We're going to be home. My parents are in Atlanta, my siblings and stuff. My in-laws are actually an hour and a half up the road. So they'll probably just come into town here to hang out with us. It's a little bit different this year because normally we either travel or we're somewhere, you know, sports, all different kinds of things. But this year we're going to be home. We just kind of nested our home and got things in place. So we're just like, all right, whenever you want to get here, little baby.
Well, I'm going to put the universe and the energy out for baby girl for you, Cheyna. And we wish you easy pregnancy and a joyous holiday season. Ana, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate what you women do, not only for yourselves and your families, but for the women's game and for your country. So thank you so much for your time. And we'll be in touch. Women's football.
Thank
Woo!
you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, yes.